My name is Thomas, and these are Nissan Frontiers. The gray one is a 2006 Nissan Frontier Nismo. The black one is a brand new 2019 Nissan Frontier Pro 4X that I just picked up a couple of days ago. And last but not least, the white one is a 2017 Nissan Frontier Pro 4X, and this is the one that we're talking about today. The reason that I have 3 different Frontiers here is for a big upcoming video that I'm putting together, but today we're focusing on this white one behind me here, and we're talking all about the custom front bumper that's right here. So before I get into the information, let's show you what it looks like at nighttime. And just for the sake of context, these are the low beams. These are the low beams with the fog lights. These are the high beams. And those are the LEDs. And if I turn on the high beams, you can see that these barely show up in comparison to the 3 LED squares. Here we are looking down the entire length of my driveway, and I'm going to cycle through them one more time. These are the low beams with fog lights, high beams, and the LEDs. Even if I flick on and off these stock halogen high beams, you can see that they don't even compare to these LEDs, because these LEDs are lit. End of discussion. That was the best pun I could come up with. Now, believe it or not, that's only a third of what I'm going over in this video. There is this custom homemade front bumper, but there's also one in the back, as well as a bed frame. But let's start with the reason that you're here in the first place. These are 3 LED squares with an aluminium body and stainless steel mountings that's activated by a switch on the inside and hardwired directly to the battery. Right above them are 7 amber LEDs that take their inspiration from the Ford Raptor. And this is what one of those lights looks like when it's not inside the bumper. And of course, there is also an indicator on each side. And here's the indicator before it was installed. All of those lights are mounted to welded 2x1 rectangular steel with 1/8 wall and powder coated in a flat black. Mounting it involved removing the standard tow hooks that come with the Pro 4X and using that space to mount this bumper. The mounting system starts off looking like this and eventually ends up looking like this after being powder coated, and obviously there is one for each side. After mounting this by the 2 holes on the top where the tow hooks used to be, then you slide this tube over this, tighten the screw there all the way through, and that is how this ends up getting mounted. There are still a set of D-ring tow hooks that are welded to the bumper so you don't lose any of that functionality. Here's what one of the D-rings looks like before it was installed. Now when it comes to the rear bumper, it is 1x1 steel that is still powder coated in the same flat black to keep everything nice and familiar, and has even more LEDs. There are night running lights as well as brake lights that work at 2 separate levels of brightness, so when you brake at nighttime, they match the stock lights. There are also more indicators, in fact a grand total of 6 of them, 3 on each side. And last but certainly not least, there are twin reversing lights that will literally melt your eyeballs if you stare at them for too long. And of course, when it all comes together, this is what it looks like at nighttime. When it comes to the frame of the rear bumper, it has been mounted to the lower step of the original rear bumper, as well as 2 receivers that have been welded to the frame. A third and functional receiver has also been mounted onto the middle of the frame because the Pro 4X doesn't even come with a tow hitch, which I think is kind of silly for the highest end version of this truck. On either side of the tow hitch are the additions of small D-rings, because here in Canada it is law to chain up whatever you're towing if it's been mounted on a ball and socket hitch. And here's what one of the D-rings looks like before it was installed. And lastly, the bed frame. This is 1.5 by 1.5 steel, again powder coated in the same flat black, and while there are no lights, it still has hooks and tensioners to help mount whatever you might be carrying in the bed of this Frontier. Even though it isn't a part of the frame, the bed also has some nighttime modifications made to it. There are 3 LED lights on either side of the bed to help with nighttime visibility back here, because there's only so much that the stock halogen cargo light can do. And just in case you're wondering, this is what it looks like when there's no lights added onto the rear bumper. This one's on the back of the 2006 Nismo. And some of you might be thinking, okay, cool, you get some extra light power, you get some extra safety with the front and rear bumper, but how much does it weigh? What are you sacrificing in mileage and fuel economy when it comes to having one of those bumpers on? Well, let me tell you. Here I have a scale, and here I have one of the mock-up bumpers. 246.2 pounds. And I know that I'm just over 200 pounds, so let's just go ahead and call it 45 pounds in total, and let's just take our closest guess and times it all by 3, assuming that each one weighs the same, and that's 135 pounds that we've added onto the vehicle with this added safety, functionality, the lights, and all the extras as well. And yes, these were 100% homemade inside this very shop. At the end of the day, my message with this video is not to show off these bumpers, but it is to inspire you to do something custom with your vehicle. It's easy enough to buy something offline and do it like other people have done it, but now this is the only bumper in the world and the only Frontier in the world that looks like this, and there's something so special about that. So if you're working on a vehicle, remember, it's a piece of art, and art requires a custom touch. So if you can do it yourself or have somebody at a local shop do it for you, then I recommend going that route and building something truly spectacular and from your unique imagination. But that's everything that you need to know about this custom front bumper, as well as the homemade rear bumper and bed frame. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. And of course, if you have a custom truck with a frame like this or a really cool Frontier, I'd love to see it. So post on Instagram and tag me at officialthomaswarren. And if you like what I do here on this channel, feel free to subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.